Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 22nd Annual Kansas City Storytelling Celebration, sponsored by the Mid-Continent Public Library. I'm Joyce Slater. Our next storytellers are Nancee and Mike Mickham. They come to us from the Ozarks of Missouri. And their whole goal in life is to bring us the traditional stories and songs of the Ozarks and Missouri and keep them alive. Welcome, Nancee and Mike Mickham. Thank you.
You ready for me?
I'm ready.
Well, Joe Clark, the preacher's son, preached all over the land. The only game he ever knew was Little Hijack's game. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, he's going far away. Well, old Joe had a big old mule, his name was Morgan Brown, and every tooth in that mule's head was 16 inches round. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, he's going far away. Woo! I took my girl to the dance last night, did it kind of sneaking. I missed her mouth and I kissed her nose, the doggone thing was leaking. Fare thee well, oh Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, oh Joe Clark, he's going far away. I knocked my sister down the well, I guess I should have caught her. I heard my mama say the next day, it's hard to raise a daughter. Fare thee well, oh Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, oh Joe Clark, he's going. One more time. Well, the Smiths, they had a little girl that set their hearts aflutter. They named the poor girl Margarine because they hadn't any
Butter.
Yep, and the sister's name was Poor Kay. And they had a little brother named Orleo, and they lived on the inside of the door, and the light would come on every time they would look, and they was next to some lady that didn't get along with some sour cream that was overdone. Well, fare thee well, oh Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. Fare thee well, oh Joe Clark, he's going far away. Woo! Yeehaw!
Hello.
How are you?
We are Mike and Nancee Mickham from the Ozark Hills of Missouri.
She's the Nancee and I'm the Mike.
That's right. And we want to thank Mid-Continent Public Library.
Thank you very much.
And Casey Celebration for inviting us here.
Also.
So the Ozarks are way south of here, right? They're the oldest mountain range in North America.
Yeah.
So old, you ask.
Yeah, they are so old that the mountains have become hills, and the holes have become hollers. And how do you know it's a holler?
It's like a deep canyon.
Well, no, how do you know it's a holler?
How do you know it's a holler?
Hey, how do I get on the other side?
You are on the other side.
It's like a hallway. Hollers, actually, the Irish word for hallway is holla. So who knows? Maybe an Irishman told somebody how to get around down there.
That's right. So we do traditional folk songs and traditional stories of the Ozark Hills to carry on the traditions. See, all the immigrants, when they came over from Italy and Greece and Ireland and Germany,
Mars.
they all...
Never mind.
I don't believe there's any from Mars yet. So they all came over, of course, on the boats, and they brought their songs and stories with them, and they dispersed out into the United States, and as they got where they were going, some folks would change a line here, and some would change a phrase there to fit into where they were living. That's a folk song. So do you know a definition of a folk song?
I'll tell you what Mike Seeger said, Pete Seeger's brother. He said that if you tell somebody how a folk song goes, it no longer is one. So it changes with the place. Matter of fact, we had us an opportunity on Jackson Street at the Boys and Girls Club in Kansas City. And Nancee and I showed up dressed like this for the Boys and Girls Clubs. And they kind of looked at us funny. And Nancee asked them, what's a folk song? And they said, oh, it's songs that old people sing. And I was like, well, and I got to thinking, I was like, well, do you guys like rap? Oh, yeah, we like rap. Well, rap are songs that you sing about where you're living, about what's going on, about the times and what's happening. And that's folk songs too, and we made a connection with them right at that point. They understood what we was talking about.
Songs of the folk. Now, we sing along about traditional Ozark, so I'm going to teach you a traditional Ozark folk song.
Happy birthday.
No. This is called Old Blue.
It was about what?
And I'm gonna teach you the chorus, and so we'll start with that, and then we'll sing. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Repeat after me.
Repeat after her.
I got a song and his name is Blue.
She's got a dog and it's not the song.
What?
She's got a dog and her name is Blue.
I got a dog and his name is Blue.
I got a dog and his name is Blue.
I got a dog and his name is Blue.
I got a dog and his name is Blue.
Bet you $5 he's a good dog too.
I bet you $5 he's a good dog too.
Sing hey,
hey, old Blue.
You're a good dog, you.
I gotta play with you?
I wish you would. Okay, ready? Well, I got a dog and his name is Blue. I got a dog and his name is Blue. I got a dog and his name is Blue. Bet you $5 he's a good dog too. I sing a hey, old Blue. You're a good dog. Well, I shouldered my axe and I toted my horn, gonna find some possum in new grown corn. Old Blue tree, and I went to see big fat possum on the tall oak tree. Big possum, nice and brown, sweet potatoes all around. I sing a hey, old Blue. You can have some too. Are there possums in heaven too? Well, I got a dog and his name is Blue. I got a dog and his name is Blue. I got an old dog and his name is Blue. Bet you $5 he's a good dog too. I sing a hey, old Blue. You were a good dog.
Oh, I know what you're gonna do. Ready? Doggies for sale. Ooh!
Now that last song was not that old. It was probably 50s. But you go back and you tell your grandma or your great grandma and grandpa, I wish that doggy in the window. And they'll know it.
I wish you wouldn't even sang it. You shouldn't have even sang it.
Why?
Why'd you sing it?
What?
I was
teaching them.
Well, you brought back bad memories.
Why?
Well, remember when we got home after being gone so long, the grass was so high that I had to go out there with the weed whipper and start it up, and I'm out there cutting the grass down and cutting. And I did not know that our neighbor's dog was sitting in the grass. I had no idea, and I'm back and forth and back with that weed whacker.
Yeah.
and he popped his tail up, and I took his tail right off, right at the bottom.
You took his tail off?
Yeah, but I'm quick. I'm rapid. I'm a quick thinker. So I grabbed that dog up and stuck him in the car. We went to Walmart.
Walmart?
Yeah, they're the biggest retailer in the world. Of course you would take him to Walmart, wouldn't you? This is where the laughter is entered. You put the laugh in. That's right.
To be truthful now, I'll tell you a story about tails. A long, long, long time ago, dogs and cats, they were just like us. Oh, yeah, they went to school, they had jobs, they dressed fine, they had log cabins, and they even went to church. Now, of course, the dogs went to the Baptist church, and the cats went to the Methodist church.
Walk like a dog, bark like a dog.
Anyway, so one cold, frosty morning, the dogs all walked into the church, and they took their tails off and hung it on a hook, just like men will take their hats off and hang it on a hook. Well, it was customary in that time, of course, to take your tail off, and it was more comfortable to sit down. So they're all sitting down, and the music started. All of a sudden, a spark from the wood stove lit the curtains on fire. The church was ablaze. Fire, fire! So the dogs got up, and they ran toward the door, and they grabbed any old tail off that hook, because they was in a hurry, and headed toward the hills. That's why, to this very day, what do dogs do when they first meet each other? They go around and sniff the tail. They're still looking for their own. Now, do you believe that?
I do. There's
now, that's
another.
what's called a tall tale. There's lots of tales in storytelling. There's fairy stories, tall tales, personal stories.
Do fairies have stories?
Do fairies have tales?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I have to think about that.
So we are traditional folk artists, and we tell about old stuff and about pioneer times. And the pioneers, you know, they had to make their own entertainment, just like we're doing with music and with songs and story, and they story told, of course. And they also grew their own food. There were no Walmarts, no Costco's. So I bet some of you planted a garden this year, and you harvested some good tomatoes this summer. Well, we're going to tell you about an old mule press.
You're going to get your mandolin?
The mandolin, keep talking.
Oh, I'm supposed to be talking now. Yeah, a mule press is when you're in a barn and a mule leans up against you. No, it's not. What's a mule press?
An old mule press is, well, okay, so at harvest time, the pioneers would all get together because not everybody had a mill to grind their corn. Not everybody had a sorghum press. Now, a sorghum is a big old mule, and he would be hitched up to a great big harness, and he'd walk around and around. He'd be turning stones. And sorghum cane grows in a long cane stalk, and they'd stick it through that stone, and all that brown juice would ooze out, and they'd bile it and bile it, and make a play party out of it. Everybody would get on a camp meeting, and they'd play, and they'd have songs. So this is a time back in our pioneer days.
This was written before the Dead Sea was even sick. This is how old this song is. By and by, by and by. Leaves are red and the ground is cold. Sap's gonna rise, so I've been told. We don't care if the frost is coming by and by.
In the dark, they steal a kiss.
so I've been told. We don't care if the frost is coming by and by. Oh, we don't care if the frost is coming by and by. I hope you learned something from that.
There you go. Sorghum, molasses, old mule press. That's right, they made a parade party. And like the song Old Blue, remember, he was out hunting. You couldn't go to a store and just buy your food back then. Oh, no. So, I'm wondering if a lot of you haven't seen some of the instruments we have been playing. This is a mandolin.
Mandolin.
Oh, there's the bass,
There's
cello, mandolin. And then, of course, Mike is playing a...
I am playing the guitar. This has got 6 strings and it makes sounds like this.
This is a banjo. This is a 4-string banjo or a mountain banjo. This is a very old instrument. It didn't look like this when it first came to America.
Yeah.
No, the slaves brought it over, and it was a gourd with a 1 string.
And
And it has evolved to our modern-day banjo.
we're going to start a group called Banjovi.
No, we're not.
Okay, we're not.
And what's that, Mr. Mike?
This is a fiddle, and this is a violin. Get it? This is a fiddle, and this is a violin.
What he's trying to say is the same instrument. The violin has a little different makeup on the bridge
And the
there.
bridge work, yeah.
But when it's called a violin, they play really old music,
Long hair
classical
music.
music.
Wait a minute, I resemble that remark.
And when they play the fiddle,
just a little bit
they
of
play hoedowns.
Yeah,
Are you ready?
You've got to tell them about the spoons.
I'll do it
Oh,
after
yeah, okay.
that. Play hoedown.
Are you going to read? I already did that.
There you go. Now that's when you call it a fiddle. You play a
The
hoedown.
best definition I ever heard somebody say, and I wished I would have penned it, is a violin sings and fiddles dance. And that describes it above everything, I think.
Now these, of course, are spoons. These are handmade for me, wood carved, but you could play the spoons too. You just go ask your mom or your dad and get some spoons out of the kitchen drawer, and you put them back to back. You put your pointer finger in the middle, and you hold it tight, and you practice beating on your knee. It's harder than it looks, but it takes practice. Remember your teachers. Practice, it'll make it perfect. And then you put your other hand.
Oh, going for a ride. Yeah, yeah, boy. Yeah.
And you can have fun with spoons. This is a dying art. That's why we share it with you. These traditional folk arts need to keep going. So will you help us? All right, so we've talked about the pioneers and the harvest and them entertaining themselves. And no storytelling program would be good without a ghost story. This isn't really a ghost story, but it's a good Ozark Hills story. Once upon a time, there was a lad named Jack. Now, Jack, he had climbed the beanstalk. He had slayed the dragon, but this time he was just visiting his grandparents in the Ozark Hills. Now, his grandparents had a log cabin in the valley, and the hills were behind him. And up in the hills, there lived a monster called the Sally Bally. The Sally Bally would come sallying forth out of his big old cave, and he'd eat their cows, and he'd eat their horses, and knock down the log cabins just to be mean. Sometimes he would even eat people, too. Well, it was harvest time when Jack was visiting Grandma and Grandpa had the best apple orchard around, luscious, juicy red apples. So he was harvesting, and he was putting it in a great big kettle black pot. Now, you probably know a witch's black kettle pot, but back then a big kettle pot was used to make apple butter or apple cider. And he had it over the wood fire, and he was stirring, and that smell drifted through the valley, and all the neighbors heard it. And the Sally Bally, here he comes! And he picked up that great big black kettle over the fire and drank it. He would have ate Grandma, Grandpa, and Jack too, but they hid out for a little while. So they got back to home, and Grandpa realized, well, I'm going to need some more apples for my apple butter. So Jack and Grandpa went out to the orchard to pick, and they had great big baskets, and they was a picking, and they was a talking, and they was a eating, and the smell started wafting up again. Now see the Sally Bally? He was 22 feet tall, with 18 feet of him as arms, and his fingernails drug the ground, and they were always dirty. He had long, gray, scraggly hair. His mouth looked like a laundry basket full of butcher knives, and he had great big ears, about the size of a truck bed. Oh, he was a ugly thing. So he come out down the hill, and Grandpa and Jack forgot about looking out for him, and here he come. It sounded like a mountain lion arguing with a steam engine. And he came after Jack and Grandpa. Well, they started to run, and Jack grabbed the basket and threw it behind him. Well, that stopped him for a minute, and he ate the apples and the basket and everything. Then he started after Grandpa. Grandpa stopped and threw his basket behind him. Stopped him for a minute. Basket and all, and he stuck in there's wire in the basket, and he started cleaning his teeth. Well, that gave Grandpa and Jack just enough time to run into the yard and yell, "Grandma, the Sally Bally's are coming!" And they hid under that black kettle. Well, Sally Bally came into the yard, and Grandma saw him, and she heard him, but she was on her front porch, her favoriteest place to be. And she was a-rocking on her rocking chair, and she was a-knitting, clickety-clack, 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 and she was smoking an old pipe. Oh, she was enjoying it. She wasn't moving. She saw the Sally Bally coming toward her, and he leaned way down into her with that nasty breath. "Where them men folk?" "I don't know. I ain't seen them." Sally Bally looked at her. "You better tell me, or I'm gonna smash this front porch down." That just made Grandma mad. That was her favoriteest place, as I told you. She looked at that Sally Bally. She said, "Come here. Come here. I'll tell you." That Sally Bally leaned forth that great big ear. You know what she did? She grabbed her rocking chair, she grabbed her knitting needles, and she grabbed her pipe, and she crawled into the ear of that there Sally Bally, sat down and started rocking. Started knitting. Pipe in her pipe. Well, the noise, was driving that Sally Bally crazy. He started shaking his head and jumping all around, trying to get that. Oh, the noise. Well, Grandma was used to the Ozark hills. They're like this. That was mild in comparison. So she just sat tight, rocking in her rocking chair, clickety-clack, knitting on her needles, smoking on her pipe. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack. Oh, Sally Bally couldn't stand it any longer. Tried to shake her out, trying to get that woman and her furniture out of his ear. Finally couldn't take it anymore, and he went to the side of a cliff and went bang, bang, bang. One time too many, one time too hard, and he fell down dead. Well, Grandma just climbed out of the ear, and by that time, Grandpa and Jack were running to see if they could help. Well, she was grabbing her rocking chair and gave it to Jack and got her knitting needles in her pipe, and they started walking back. And Jack looked at Grandma. He said, now that you've killed the Sally Bally, what you gonna do with him?" "Oh, ain't gonna do nothing with him," she said. "The ferns will grow over him. The weeds will grow over him. The Sally will grow over him. By springtime, we won't even know he's there." You know what? She was right. And that's the legend of the Sally Bally. All right, we're going to finish up here with a fun song. You like fun songs? I know you do.
What's your favorite fruit, Dilly? Tomatoes?
No. That is a fruit, you know.
I know. Stop it. Here you go.
Here we go. We have
Thank
been
you.
Mike and Nancy. Mike, I'm so what a pleasure we'd had to share our time with you.
Thank you.
And Mid-Continent Public Library, Casey's Storytelling Celebration.
And all the
Glad to
friends
be
that we
here.
met through the years by doing this.
That's exactly right.
And here you go. Ready? What comes in a bunch? Well, I got a hunch. Bananas. Got a yellow skin and a shape like a grin. It's appealing to me, too. Well, I ain't no monkey, but they make me feel funky. Bananas. A skin you strip will make you slip. I done it a time or two. Ain't got no pits or seeds inside her bones to make you choke. Had them sliced and peeled and fried, but I never had one smoked.
Never.
Comes once in a bunch. Bananas. Banana splits, I just can't quit. Eating one or two. Bananas. Bananas. Banana hide! Ah! Yeehaw!
Bye for now.
Bye for now! Yeehaw! Woo!